This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
John Paul Miller. You know, JP? Good old JP. Pastor John Paul Miller. Stood in a federal courtroom in Florence, South Carolina, and just said two words the other day. They were, anyone, not guilty. Then he slipped out a back door while his attorneys faced the crowd. More than 70 people packed courtroom number 3 at the J.L. McMillan Federal Building, so many that some had to wait outside. Yes, there's that many people waiting to see JP go down in flames. Protesters who'd been showing up every week since Micah Miller's death gathered on the sidewalk, chanting, holding signs, and watching as the man they've been demanding accountability for finally faced some semblance of that with a federal judge. And when it was over, J.P. Miller didn't walk out the front. He ducked out the back into a waiting vehicle while his defense team told reporters, "Our client looks forward to his day in court." Here's what happened. Federal Magistrate Thomas E. Rogers III ordered Miller released on $100,000 bond, but with conditions. He is to wear an ankle monitor. He cannot contact victims, their families, or any witnesses. He cannot possess a firearm. He cannot excessively drink alcohol, and he had to surrender his passport. Prosecutors told the court they considered J.P. Miller a flight risk and a danger to the community. His attorneys disagreed. The judge sided somewhere in the middle. He's not sitting in a cell tonight, but he's not walking around without restrictions either. For a lot of people following this case, the ankle monitor felt like a small victory. For others, it felt like the bare minimum. Because the charges Miller is facing, cyberstalking and making false statements to federal investigators, carry a maximum of 7 years. And that's for what he allegedly did to his wife while she was still alive, not for her death. So let's talk about what those charges actually mean and why this case has consumed the true crime internet now for almost 2 years. The federal indictment says that beginning in November of 2022 and continuing until April 27th of 2024, the day Micah Miller died, John Paul Miller engaged in a pattern of harassment against his estranged wife. He placed tracking devices on her vehicle. He contacted her more than 50 times in a single day. He interfered with her finances and her daily life. He damaged her tires, and he posted a nude photograph of her online without her consent. You know, all the things a good pastor does. The last one, the image-based abuse, he confessed in an email. His own words. "I was hurt that you were telling everyone horrible, intimate details of my past sin, and I just wanted to try and hurt you. Please forgive me. It was evil of me to do that." The photo was up for less than an hour, but federal law doesn't have a time limit on revenge porn when it's part of a stalking pattern. Then there's the lie. When FBI agents asked Miller about the tire damage, he denied it, said he didn't do it. Except the feds had receipts. Literally, they found evidence that he purchased a tire deflation device online. They found messages where he discussed her vehicle with other people. One lie to a federal agent is a separate felony. That's how these cases work. They don't need to prove you committed murder. They just need to prove you lied about something that they can document. And here's the thing about federal investigators. They don't ask questions they don't already know the answer to. Now, if you're hearing about this case for the first time, you might be wondering why cyberstalking charges against a pastor are generating this much attention. So let me give you some context here that turns this from a domestic abuse case into something that's drawn international scrutiny. You ready? There's a lot. We're going to try and, give you the best version of it. If you want more, we've made a lot of videos on this, so go back into our archive and you will find the full picture if you really want to go down the rabbit hole. It's a dark one, let me tell you. Before we go into all the details, do press subscribe wherever you're listening to us or watching us, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our coverage, and let us know your thoughts on this case in the comments section there on YouTube or on our Substack. That link also in the description. You can interact with us directly in the studio on our Substack, and it's free right now, so do check that out. Micah Miller died on April 27th of 2024. She was only 30 years old. She was a graphic designer, a worship leader, an aspiring missionary. She was found at Lumber River State Park in Robeson County, North Carolina. Earlier that day, she had called 911 and told the dispatcher she was going to kill herself. She wanted her phone to be traceable so her family could find her body. Authorities ruled it as suicide. The medical examiner confirmed a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and under normal circumstances, that would have been the end of the public story. But Micah died 48 hours after serving her husband divorce papers. And her husband was a man who had spent years, according to her own journals, her attorney, and now a federal indictment, systematically dismantling her sense of safety, autonomy, and sanity. That's the allegations that she's made. Less than 12 hours after being notified of his wife's death, J.P. Miller stood in front of his congregation at Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach and delivered a sermon. Number one, that's a little weird. Your wife's dead. Let's go do a sermon. Like it might be time for the associate pastor to step in or to tell your congregation, you know what? I'm taking a breather this week. My wife's dead. Nope. He was back in the limelight. Had to get that attention. Had to control that narrative like a good narcissist does. He told them Micah had been involuntarily committed to mental institutions. He told them she had threatened to kill herself many times. He told them she had struggled with bipolar disorder and depression since she was 12. He controlled that narrative the best way he knew how. He said all of this from the pulpit about a woman who could no longer defend herself or say if any of it was utter bullshit. While her family sat in the audience hearing their daughter's mental health history broadcast to hundreds of people and live streamed to thousands more. And that's when the internet started paying attention, because people started asking questions about J.P. Miller's first marriage, which ended when his wife Allison discovered he'd been having an affair with Micah. Yeah, Micah, who actually had been a youth earlier. But now she's allegedly the babysitter, and he's the pastor. About the fact that JP had known Micah since she was 10 years old, that raised some questions. That she attended his church setting starting at 15, that he officiated her first wedding to his best friend, that she worked at his family's babysitter, or as his family's babysitter before his becoming his wife. Yeah, there was a lot of questions. A lot of people going, this seems off. This seems off not only in this is a, ethically, morally, bankrupt sort of way, but also you're a freaking pastor. Oh, I guess the rules don't apply when God's giving you the messages of what you should be doing, right? His callings, he's calling you to do this. It's all part of his plan, right? About Allison's sworn affidavit, where she claimed JP confessed to her in 2015, not just about the affair with Micah, but about employing prostitutes and being sexually inappropriate with several underage female members of the church. She said the church ordered him into a sexual addiction program. They didn't call the police. They didn't turn his ass in. No, they covered for him like good churches do, cover for the sex addict preachers that are boinking the kids. Let's get him help. The Lord will intervene, and he'll make him right and better and everything. He's not a narcissistic maniac that's running around doing whatever he wants with a hint of religiosity delusions. No, none of that. Get him help, right? Well, again, that's conjecture. It's opinion. He's not guilty until proven guilty by a court of law. He maintains his innocence, says all this is bullshit, and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to say the evidence and the claims and the experiences of all these people say a little different. So he gets ordered into that addiction program. He never completes it. She said she tried to report the allegations to the police, but the girls were too scared to testify, and officers told her no one would believe it because JP was a well-known pastor. How many times have we heard this story? No one's going to believe you because who you're accusing is so insulated publicly, is so insulated in the minds of people that he couldn't possibly be this monster you're talking about. And those are the ones that end up getting away with the most shit. Then people started asking about Chris Skinner. Chris Skinner was a 41-year-old quadriplegic, an Army National Guardsman, a motivational speaker, and author who had spent 2 decades traveling the country warning young people about the dangers of drunk driving because at age 20, he'd been a passenger in a car that crashed and left him paralyzed from the chest down. In March of 2020, donors rallied by ESPN's Marty Smith gifted him a specialized 485-pound track fab all-terrain wheelchair so he could navigate sand, snow, and shallow water. It was supposed to be the gift of independence. I didn't know they made wheelchairs like that. That's pretty freaking amazing. On September 6th of 2021, Labor Day, Chris Skinner's body was found in the community pool at Emmons Preserve in Myrtle Beach's Market Common neighborhood. He'd gone to the pool alone that morning with his dog. Surveillance footage showed his wheelchair stopping several feet from the pool's edge and then, boop, according to police reports, apparently suddenly accelerated into the water. They don't really quite know how or why. That wasn't quite clear from the camera footage. He was submerged for approximately 40 minutes to an hour before anyone found him. The footage reportedly showed him briefly lifting his head above the water. He couldn't get help in time. First responders pulled him out, still alive. He died hours later at Grand Strand Regional Medical Center from asphyxiation due to drowning. The Horry County Coroner's Office ruled it an accident, but you might be wondering, how does John Paul fit into this equation? Well, here's where it gets complicated. According to Chris Skinner's sister, Tamara McDermott, John Paul Miller arrived at the pool that morning about 40 minutes after her brother was pulled from the water. Dashcam video shows individuals Chris's family identified as JP and Mica Miller at the scene with Chris's wife, Susie Skinner. According to McDermott, Susie had called JP to come. And according to Fitz News reporting, when Susie left the pool that day, she didn't go to the hospital with her husband. She left with JP Miller and Mica Miller. She reportedly didn't return to the hospital until hours later. Odd. Your husband, dying, rushed to the hospital, and you're hanging out with JP and Micah. Okay. At the scene, Susie allegedly told officers her husband had a do not resuscitate order. When asked to produce documentation, she couldn't. No autopsy was ordered. No photographs were taken of Chris in the pool. Key witnesses, including Susie herself, were informally questioned at the time. In a 2024 sworn affidavit, Allison Williams, JP's first wife, made an explosive claim. She alleged that JP had begun a relationship with Susie Skinner while Chris was still alive. And she alleged that just 2 weeks before Chris drowned, he had confronted J.P. Miller and asked him to leave his wife and children alone. Williams also stated in the affidavit, J.P. called me the day Susie's husband died in an alleged drowning accident, extremely upset and asking me to pray, which was incredibly bizarre. She added, it is chilling to know that the spouses of both Susie and J.P. are now dead from tragic events. And they just happen to find each other right then and there. It's a miracle from above. The investigation into Chris Skinner's death was reopened in January of 25. It was closed again in March. Police said no probable cause existed to charge anyone with the crime. The Horry County Coroner's Office investigation reportedly remains open. J.P. Miller denies ever having an affair with Susie Skinner. He claims they were only friends. He officiated Chris Skinner's funeral, and he delivered the eulogy. Just like he officiated Micah's first wedding. He's just kind of in everybody's business. He's just kind of there. He's always there. And in June of 25, about 13 months after Mica Miller's death and nearly 4 years after Chris Skinner drowned, J.P. Miller's Susie Skinner on a beach in Myrtle Beach, surrounded by armed guards. Their 7 combined children were not in attendance. Yeah. They're kind of like, I don't know about this. At least that's the conjecture. No, I'm not alleging anything. I'm telling you what's documented, what's been reported, what's in sworn affidavits, and I'm telling you that federal investigators spent over a year looking at the circumstances surrounding Micah Miller's case before bringing these charges. What the indictment describes isn't a crime of passion. It's not a single act of violence. It's infrastructure. It's the documented architecture of coercive control, the tracking, the financial interference, the isolation, the humiliation, the relentless contact designed to make someone feel like they can never escape. Micah kept journals. She told her attorney, Regina Ward, what was happening to her. She described being isolated from family and friends, being deprived of basic needs, being monitored constantly, being threatened with the exposure of private information. She said JP demanded sex while she was hospitalized, that he forced her to perform sexual acts against her will, that he preached from the pulpit on Sundays that it was her job as a woman to submit. She called it grooming. She told police that JP had groomed her while she worked for him at that church. And when you look at the timeline, a girl who knew him at 10, attended his church at 15, babysat his kids, married his best friend, and then ended up married to him after he officiated that first wedding. It's hard to argue with her word choice, grooming. Miller's attorney has denied the grooming allegation. This is what a jury will eventually hear, not just the cyberstalking, not just the lies to the FBI, but the context, the pattern, the years of alleged abuse that preceded Micah's death. The federal charges are narrow by design. They're the ones prosecutors can prove beyond a reasonable doubt with digital evidence and documented admissions, but trials don't happen in a vacuum. The story of who J.P. Miller is and what he allegedly did to his wife will be told in that courtroom, even if it's technically just about tracking devices and tire deflation tools. And there's more coming. 2 civil lawsuits are pending against Miller, both filed by women using Jane Doe pseudonyms, both alleging sexual assault. The first plaintiff says she was 15 years old in 1998 when J.P. essayed her inside Cathedral Baptist Church, where his father was pastor. Yes, this does appear to possibly be a multi-generational trend. She says she encountered him again in 2023 in Myrtle Beach, and he assaulted her again, shoving his hand down her pants without consent, like good pastors do. After she alleges he cited scripture, no man is without sin and temptation. God understands that. So basically using scripture then to justify predatory behavior. Oh, he's a fucking gem, isn't he? Allegedly. A second lawsuit was filed by another accuser claiming Miller assaulted her when she was 14 and he was 19. Miller has filed counterclaims for defamation. His father, Reginald Wayne Miller, is named as a co-defendant in the suit. Both men deny everything. So here we are. J.P. Miller walked into a federal courtroom, pled not guilty, and walked out a back door with an ankle monitor strapped to his leg. The trial on this is likely 6 to 12 months away, pending, no other charges. You get more charges coming? Could push that down the road a bit. The civil suits will proceed on their own timeline. The church building was sold in February of 25 for $2.1 million. He's still in Myrtle Beach, still married to Susie Skinner, still a free man with conditions. And I know what some of you are thinking. This isn't enough. Cyberstalking and false statements aren't murder charges. They're not justice for a woman who's dead. They're not answers about Chris Skinner. They're not accountability for the allegations in those civil suits. And you're right. This isn't the ending anyone wanted. But I caution you to say this is the ending. I don't think it is. I think this is just the beginning of the end. And here's where it is right now. It's federal. It's on the record. It's a prosecutor standing in front of a jury and saying out loud with evidence that this man tracked his wife, harassed his wife, humiliated his wife, and then lied to the FBI about it. It's the first time in J.P. Miller's life that his version of events will be challenged under oath by people who don't attend his church. Mica Miller can't tell her story anymore, but the federal government is about to tell part of it for her. The people who packed that courtroom, who drove from as far as Massachusetts to be there, they're not going away. The protesters who've been showing up every week since Micah died aren't stopping. And the federal case against John Paul Miller has officially begun. He pled not guilty, he slipped out the back, and now he waits with an ankle monitor on his leg and a trial date on his calendar. The court of public opinion made up its mind a long time ago. Now a federal court gets its turn. And so do you in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on YouTube. If you're not already on our YouTube channel, search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi to join us there. You can also comment on our Substack. It's absolutely free right now, and you get access to all of our reporting a day before we put it out publicly everywhere else. If you want in on that, please do check out our Substack. The link, you can find it on the screen right now if you're watching us on YouTube. It's hiddenkillers.substack.com. It's also in the description. Join. It's free, and get in on all of our reporting. Like I said, a day before it goes live everywhere else. Hope you can join us there. I look forward to your thoughts. And do press subscribe if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you have a moment, leave us a review. Greatly helps us in the rankings and lets other folks know, signals to them that you find this valuable. And then other folks find our reporting as well. So please, if you have a moment, leave us that review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, my name is Tony Bruschi. We will talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.